Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after. Well, sometimes you just got to go to the chat room and give the chat room credit, and because they put it best. And I'm going to go the very first comment when I came and arrived here looking into the show. Jeep Guy 696969 says, perfect type of game to play on the back-to-back, very direct approach. I like the effort all around. I've only got one disagreement with Jeep Guy 696969, and that would be this. His language isn't strong enough. This was more than a perfect road game, in my estimation. Here's why. The perfect road game, given the circumstances, given the fact that the Winnipeg Jets played last night and that they're playing a back-to-back, travel in between, division rivalry game, this is the kind of game where you want to go out and you want to kind of take all the air out of the building, make it a boring game, kind of calm things down. You know what I mean? Not too high energy. You want to bring the energy down. That is what you would typically consider to be the perfect road game. The Winnipeg Jets went beyond that. The Winnipeg Jets were grinding tonight. They were flying out there, not giving any space anywhere on the ice against the Chicago Blackhawks. I took a look at that and I couldn't imagine how frustrating a game that was for Chicago. Here's a team that can't win a game, right? They're struggling. And I know there's a lot of you who are going to say, no matter what happens, the Jets won. That's all that matters. Let's do this. And there's some of you out there who are going to say, yeah, it's the Chicago Blackhawks. They can't win a game. Let's pump the brakes here. I don't say let's pump the brakes. I think the Jets handled this perfectly, the same way they handled the last game against the Chicago Blackhawks. But if you're the Chicago Blackhawks and you walk into this game and you're thinking, this would be a game we'd like to take, right? They want to take any game. But boy, oh boy, it's the Winnipeg Jets who are absolutely flying. They're coming into their building. They should be a little bit tired. They should be a little bit weakened. Here's a game that maybe, just maybe, we can pull off and win this game and start building some belief and some momentum within this locker room. The Jets went in there and said, no, you don't get a sniff. You don't get a sniff here tonight. I take a look at the one Chicago goal, and for my part, I think it was basically a fluky goal. I mean, it's a nice play, and it's a grinding play. The player stealing the puck off of Axel Jonsson-Fjallby's stick like that. That's a nice play, but he's basically spinning and firing it on the net. He's just trying to get it on net, ends up picking the very right spot. That's how close David Riddick came to getting a shutout in this game. But time and time again, and there was a play in the third period I want to point out specifically. It was a 2-on-1 for the Winnipeg Jets. I think it was Mikey Asimont on the one side. 2-on-1. The Jets are heading down the ice. They don't score. The puck turns over and starts heading up ice. And the Chicago Blackhawks are heading up ice after the Jets were down ice on a 2-on-1. So they should have them outmanned, right? It should be a 3-on-2 at the very least at this point. Well, somehow it ends up being a 2-on-4. And I couldn't believe it. And I went back and I looked at the video afterwards, and the one player who goes on the 2-on-1 continues busting his butt around the net, keeping his momentum, buries his head, and just does everything he can to get back into the play. And I think that just explains what we're seeing from the Winnipeg Jets right now. What is so good about them is the players heading up ice and throwing everything he has towards scoring a goal. And when they don't score that goal, there's not this moment to slam your stick against the boards, throw your head up in the air, do whatever you do because you're frustrated you didn't score. It's not even a thought. You could see it in the player's body language. He is turned, and everything at that moment, the scoring chance, it's gone. It's forgotten. It doesn't matter anymore. Everything now becomes about getting back and being in a proper defensive position to make sure that they don't get scored against. I'll tell you this. You have to give credit to coaches who come out and tell you they are going to do something. And Rick Bowness came into Winnipeg and said he was going to get more out of this team. He said they were going to be more defensive. And he said it right from the beginning in training camp. The Winnipeg Jets were going to go out and they were going to be the kind of team that didn't sit back. When they lost the puck to you, they weren't waiting for you to make a mistake. They were just going to go and get the puck back from you. That's what they were going to do. This team is full on bought into that. And that is a hard game to play, ladies and gentlemen. There's a reason why not everyone plays it. And it's because it takes fitness, It takes a lot of wind. It takes a lot of effort. It takes commitment, and it takes buy-in. And the Winnipeg Jets have all that. And to get that tonight, and again, I know it's the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that really didn't seem to push the Winnipeg Jets too hard. But that's all the more reason for a team like Winnipeg to say, okay, it's a little bit of an off night. Let's kick up our feet. That did not happen. The Winnipeg Jets pushed and approached this game like it was the first game on a road trip, not the last. And to me, that's why I look at this game and say it is beyond a perfect road game. That's Rennie's take. Time to get Kenny's take, and time to bring in the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, I'm just going to say this right out of the gate. I missed our boy or Enor Trap here. Says, Renny, you are spot on with your analysis. Whenever he shows up, he's always dropping compliments Rennie's way, and Renny will take them. He needs them. He needs the validation out here, Ken. You don't need validation. You've got what's going on here, and I want to know what you saw from tonight's game.
Yeah, I don't need my ego stroked the same way that you do, Sean, but that's okay. That's okay. That's why we're the tandem that we are. Interesting game on a lot of fronts for the Winnipeg Jets. There's no doubt about that. They were rock solid in a lot of areas. A little bit leaky in that second period for a stretch there, but overall, I thought they were very sound in most everything that they did. They made life. The forwards helped make life easier for the defense, especially after they went down to 5 blue liners after the injury to Logan Stanley. The forward group as a whole I thought was very good. The power play obviously clicked for one more. Did they have a couple where they could have got unloaded a few more shots? Sure, but the body of work over this last stretch has been quite impressive for the power play as a whole. Penalty kill pretty solid. Very solid effort by the backup netminder. T. Shu with a nice comment about David Riddick's puck handling. I thought it was pretty impressive for sure. And overall, pretty sound performance for a team on a back-to-back, and one that continues to be absolutely on fire within the Central Division, Sean. You can't overstate the importance of a 10-2 record within the Central Division. It's absolutely, astounding in a lot of ways, and it's something that can help a team get some much important breathing room. Man, oh man, we're going to dig in a lot on Josh Morrissey for sure, but boy, oh boy, what an effort overall by the Winnipeg Jets. Again, we know that this is a team playing the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that is struggling mightily. Those are games that the Jets need to win, but they took care of business on a back-to-back, and it was an impressive showing. And Mikey Asamont is a guy who I led my column with. Didn't end up on the score sheet tonight, but that ability to draw that double minor against Jack Johnson was critical. It was one of the penalties that led to the Jets' power play goal from Blake Wheeler that ended up being the game-winning goal. So to me, that's another one of those under-the-radar plays. Mikey Asamont continues to make things happen, Sean. He makes things happen on the ice almost every single shift. Yesterday was the play that Jeff referenced. The chip up to Kyle Connor that allowed him to burst in and score. And today it was a place where getting involved and engaged physically. He probably got away with one, Sean, I would say. I think he could have got a roughing minor himself for his pushing of the helmet of Jack Johnson on the ice, which is what caused Johnson to retaliate the way that he did. And
that's how you draw him in. Set the hook,
right, but
baby.
No, for sure. But I think he got lucky that he got away with one there. I think that should have been a 4-minute and a 2-minute is all I'm saying.
Agreed.
I'm applauding him for the engagement. There's no doubt about that. But to me, that's probably one that should have been 4 and 2 instead of just a 4-minute minor overall. But, yep, impressive win overall. And, yep, that's what I saw from it overall. We got lots to dig into.
Sorry here. In Bones We Trust, Renny. I'm thinking it's an ankle. Thinking there's potentially a high ankle sprain involved in there. What are you thinking, Ken?
I think the ankle is definitely impacted, but to me, the thing that stood out, he grabbed his left knee when he left the ice, Sean. To me, if it was his ankle, I thought he would have reached lower. And that's one of those things where if it's his ankle, he would have, I thought he would have given it the old straightening of the leg, right? I think. You gonna be okay? Kenny's water bottle has dropped a negative comment about the NFL team that Sean roots for.
That's a fine. That's a fine right there. That's a 5-minute timeout. Can I wish I knew how to give the 5-minute timeout.
I'll
Kenny's
do it.
water bottle would be getting one right now. You're not gonna do it to your boy Kenny's water bottle. Who are you kidding?
Okay, hey, folks, we're not here for the name calling. I know this is mostly done in jest, but we're not.
Oh
here for
no,
the name
this is
calling.
fine. This is fine.
Okay?
There's nothing out of bounds about
Let's
this.
just keep it keep it in the PG lane if we can.
Yeah, we're doing it.
For Stanley, I think it could have been his ankle for sure. It looked like let's ask Jeff when he comes in, but it looked to me like he caught a rut when he was skating backwards. And then it was a combination. His knee and his ankle both went into the boards funny. I was absolutely shocked that he came back into the game, although it was only for the one shift. But that's a tough break for Logan Stanley, who came back into the lineup, played pretty solid. But looks like we'll see what the doctor says. But to me, it looks like he's going to miss some time, and that will open the door back up for Dylan Sandberg. But that's a good trip to the buffet. Let's bang out the lamplighter, and then we'll bring in our guest here.
Sure. All right. Get it the lamplighter.
Yeah, for me, it's the Perfetti goal, and not just because of the play that Perfetti himself makes, the incredible patience to cut to the middle. But this is all the goal is all not all. I'm sorry, it was. A lot of it had to do with Josh Morrissey.
It is all Josh Morrissey. Yes, you're right.
It's all Josh Morrissey keeping the puck in, but still, I'm not going to reduce the the nature of what Perfetti had to do in terms of the shake and bake and the cut to the middle and to get the goalie moving across his body and go back across. But that play by Morrissey is just master. We talked about checkers and chess. That's a master class play. Of course, that puck has to get out if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, but just an exceptional read by Josh Morrissey, a great pass to the middle, and just a brilliant shot by Cole Perfetti. There were a couple of impressive goals scored, but none better than the Perfetti goal, thanks in part to the incredibly brilliant play by Josh Morrissey at the left point.
Just quickly, I'm going to say that goal is all Josh Morrissey, and here's why. For him to not only keep that puck in, but to basically take it in stride going forward, what it does is it catches all the defenders in the wrong spot. So you're talking about the shake and bake. This isn't one situation where you've got somebody back, right, and prepared and waiting for a defender set up properly. This is a guy who's caught in no man's land, which is why Cole Perfetti is so easily able to shake and bake him and open that up, because this guy is starting to head down ice in an offensive position, and like that, Josh Morrissey is coming the other direction. All he can do at that point is slam on the brakes. Puck goes to Cole Perfetti, who's in stride, and now all of a sudden the defender is in no man's land. He might as well have been a pylon out on the ice, and he's a pylon because of the move that is pulled off by Josh Morrissey. Now, let's give Cole Perfetti credit. He buried the puck. To me, that's the extent of what he did out there, being in the right place to receive the pass and burying the puck. But everything else is Josh Morrissey entirely catching the Hawks in the wrong posture and the wrong position. Phenomenal job out there. And I agree with you. That was the lamplighter of the night. And hey, you know what you got to do. And people have already been doing it. I got a long list here. But if you want to share with us your lamplighter, your goal of the game, you enter yourself to win the Frosty delicious 8-pack that we give out every time on this show of Lamplighter Amber Ale. And I want to say this for the people who are wondering about this. People will sometimes question me calling it Frosty. I was messaging with one of the brewers today, and they said, indeed, it is Frosty. So I'm getting this right here. Frosty delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. If you can't wait for us to send that to you, head on down to the Transcanada Brewing Company. Go to their tap room. I'll be there for supper tomorrow, 11290 Kenniston. Go check it out. And it's time to announce our winner from this time around, Paul Cadio is how you pronounce that name. You thought it was Cadu. I thought it was Cadeau. It's
Caju.
Caju. Sorry, Caju. Yes.
That's what I said.
Yeah. There we go. You got it.
Split the difference? Okay.
Anyways, he claimed it already. This time around, John Chan is the winner of the Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. Bring the bell, everybody. He's a winner. And you have to, bring that down because I got to show him. Send me a direct message to SN Sean Reynolds at Twitter. I need your full name. I'm assuming it's John Chan. Send me an email. I can send it to you, and I will send you your voucher for your Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. Congratulations, John. Quickly,
John's
do you want to
get international watchers? I think.
Oh well, then he can claim he can either throw it back in the pot, and then tomorrow or after Sunday it's a 16-pack, or he can gift it to friends or family in town here, or he can hold on to it until he comes back. Anything that he wants to do. But John Chan, congratulations. Do you want to do the Johnston Group while we're at it?
Sure. We've got you covered play was one that won't show up on the score sheet either, but the Dylan DeMello stoppage of the Max Domi wraparound for me during the power play. I believe it was still a 2-1 game at the time. And the Jets were I wouldn't say they were reeling, but they were not exactly on their toes, as Rick Bonus likes to say. Dylan DeMello, Brendan Dillon was in front as well, but it was Dylan DeMello who got his stick across to prevent. I think that Domi was a little bit nonchalant. I don't think he was expecting to have a defender stick there, but it was a great play and a great read by Dylan DeMello, and to me that's why I've got that down as my We've Got You Covered play of the game by Dylan DeMello, sponsored by our good friends and the good folks at the Johnston Group, the OGs.
You nailed it, Ken. And of course, like Kenny said, the Johnston Group are the Kenny and Renny OGs, our first sponsors on this podcast. They've been great to us since day one. You won't find two businesses with the same challenges, but you will find 30,000 businesses with Chambers Plan employee benefits, proudly administered by our friends at Johnston Group. Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits because it evolves with the way you work and live. The plan is run as a not-for-profit designed specifically to support small businesses, and its unique pooling strategy keeps rates stable, so you won't have any surprises at your next renewal. Chambers Plan now comes with professional consulting on key financial, legal, and HR issues, and Teladoc telemedicine services are included with every health option. See how Chambers Plan can benefit your business by visiting chamberplan.ca. And you know what? This show's moving fast, Ken. Let's keep it moving even faster. We want to go down to the scene of the crime where the Winnipeg Jets didn't steal. They just bludgeoned a win out of the Chicago Blackhawks, and we've got a guy down in Chicago right now who can tell us all about it, give us his analysis. You know who we're bringing in here. Time to throw up the bat symbol with the giant hammer in the middle of it. Time to bring down the hammer. Bring down the hammer! Dropping 2 bombs, dodging shots, grenades! Move over, kiss someone else's ass on something! Gonna make Renny shout, and the show will overturn! Bring down the hammer! How you doing, my man? How's Chicago?
Oh, you know how it is here, man. It's beautiful. It's especially in the press box. I don't know. I know people don't really care about what our situation is, but anyone who's ever been to the United Center, you just get spoiled there. So,
you know what?
Say something? Or
no, I love it.
Oh, you're already going to cut in. You're already going to cut in. Hey,
no, I don't want to cut you off.
Food in the press box, and you already got something to say. Hey, you didn't talk enough. You told me to come in at 11. You told me to come in at 11:15, and now you got something more to say. Jeez.
I'm saying you bring up a good point. It's a great press box. I remember seeing Chris Chelios walk in there one time. This is a team that does a really good job of uniting the past with the present, or had for a while. And there was a time when it hadn't been like that. But Chicago is a press box where you'll quite often see and be rubbing. Like, I'll see Scotty Bowman there. You'll be sitting beside Scotty Bowman. You'll ask him a couple questions. Like, you have interactions in the press box, and lots of press boxes all over the place with former players, and a lot of former players are scouts and so on and so forth. But you bring up a good point. And one of the things we like to do on this podcast, Jeff, as you know, is we like to kind of give people behind the scenes of what we go through in our jobs. And I think you bringing that up was a great job of doing that. But enough with you talking about the behind the scenes stuff. I want to know what you saw on the ice. I think that game was about as good a road game as you could expect with a team coming off playing last night, playing what looked like an unmotivated team. This is the kind of game that could have had the Jets falling into the trap I thought they fell in against the Anaheim Ducks. I didn't think I saw that. I saw a team extremely committed to going out and playing their coach's game. What did you see?
Yeah, I saw much of the same thing. I think a lot of people would look at the Chicago Blackhawks and go, well, yeah, I mean, they're in the basement of the Central Division. This should be an easy one, even with a back-to-back. But if you look at the NHL scoreboard tonight, you'll see the Arizona Coyotes, who moved ahead of the Blackhawks today for second last place in the Central Division, snap a 19-game winning streak by the Boston Bruins. So, I think this is one of those, look, when you hear these statements that it's hard to win in this league, whether that's, any professional sports league, it's true. And particularly after a back-to-back, the Jets are 3-1 in second games of back-to-back. Guess what? They got 9 more this year, which is bananas. When I brought that up with Adam Lowry, he just, the look on his face, it's like I ruined his night. But, what? I thought it was a good game. I thought it was, I think early on, when they went up 2-0, it looked like it might be a rout, it looked like it might be another one of those, whatever, run away with it. But then you see the inevitable push from the home team when they're down. I think early on, it looked like a strategy from Chicago, whether that was just frustration with being a bad team or whether or not they felt they could, put it to Winnipeg. I think they tried to suck them into those extracurricular activities, try to make it a little bit of a physical affair, which I thought backfired on them. Not just with what happened with Jack Johnson, which was ridiculous. In that, continuously, like, what were you waiting for? 2 more minutes after you kept on dishing that out? And Mikey Esamon, as you mentioned, Kenny, credit to him because, he kind of delivered the first shot, right? I mean, that's what started it. But Jack Johnson finished it, and then the Jets jumped on, obviously, that goal with Blake Wheeler early in the second. I think it was, look, this team is playing with confidence. They're playing with a team that knows the blueprint in which they need to play, and they have confidence and trust in that blueprint. Trust and belief are two of the big words we've been hearing over the last couple games and really over the last couple weeks, and that's a powerful recipe to have for a team, whether it's the Chicago Blackhawks or anyone else in the league. And so I think you got to give him a ton of credit. I think you got to give David Riddick a ton of credit. This isn't an easy situation for a backup goalie to come in the second game of back-to-backs when you have a tired group in front of you. He hasn't got a ton of run support from his teammates either. So it's like, I think overall, you got to be happy with this. It's 2 big points. They all count for the same. It's a Central Division foe, and I think the Jets got back to 500 on the road 2 games ago. So this is moving in the right direction when it comes, to road performances. So all in all, I think this was a terrific game. Credit to Jansen Harkins for setting up Adam Lowry there. That really turned the tide of the game. I mean, I think everyone was waiting for, Chicago to get one in, whether it be a dirty goal in front or whatever. And next thing you know, this game is completely flipped on its head. So for him to have the vision, to find Lowry right there and for Lowry to finish it off, again, it's contributions from up and down the lineup. Cole Perfetti, what a goal. I mean, this is a guy who, to my last comment yesterday to close out the show, just that environment that's brewing. Look, I'm not crediting the goal or how nice it was based on necessarily the environment, but you see this kid growing, day by day, week by week, month by month, and it'll be interesting to see what he looks like by the end of the season and how he continues to grow. Because right now, I mean, he talks very maturely. We've known that really since he came onto the scene last year. But you can see that confidence growing. You can see that confidence within the locker room for young Cole Perfetti, and all things are pointing to positive signs for this team as they continue on this stretch.
Yeah. Hey, before we go too far, too many people are asking for it. And I think this is okay when people are on the show. We need restaurant reviews. What did you hit up here tonight? Because I don't know about you guys. I got a lot of messages after the show last night, people asking about the restaurants we were talking about. And, Hammy, I'm sure there's some granola eating, tree hugging people out there who want to go gluten-free like you did as well. And I'm wondering if you could give some shout outs to the places that you hit up today.
Man, so this is the first day I've been here. So I didn't really eat. I only have the press box for this trip, but I don't have a shortage of recommendations for Chicago. I didn't make it down to Purple Pig, which is what Kenny suggested. I met my cousin, him and his wife, they're both in medical school down here, and so I met them went to a Mexican restaurant, which if I can pull my wallet out here for a second, I can give you a better idea of
check those receipts.
What it
those
was.
receipts,
He's
Tammy.
literally
check those
checking
receipts.
the receipts.
I will. Hey, give me 2 seconds. My jacket is right here.
We can do that. We can check the receipts on the show. Kenny, he's starting to like horn in on your territory though. If he tells someone to wake up, Kenny, you're in a lot of trouble here.
Let me get through the $100 American bills here as I flip through my wallet. Moths are flying out. Called La Josie. That was a terrific.
Okay.
Whoa,
nice.
Credit card number in there, but yeah. So that was tacos amazing. I mean, as a gluten-free guy, they had a lot of options. That was awesome. Another one of my absolutely favorite. Like I'm pretty obsessed with barbecue food. I tend to go, I go that way whenever I go to places, and Green Street Smoked Meats. I cannot say enough good things about it. It's one of those cool kind of cafeteria setups. They got like these. They even have a great, kind of a great scene there with the white kind of lights over the whatever. So very like whether you're with your buddies or you're on a date, it works either way. And you can walk up to the bar and grab drinks. So great environment overall. And I mean, anyone who's ever been to Chicago, I don't need to tell you this. Like it's for those who haven't. Amazing food scene. I mean, amazing blues scene, amazing food scene. Like it's second to none in a lot of American cities. So there is no shortage of places to eat or things to do in this city. And the other thing about Chicago I'll end with is just the architecture, man. I mean, you could walk around this city for hours, and I'm not a guy who necessarily marvels at architecture, but it's impossible not to recognize some of the buildings here and really the beauty of a city that has tons to offer. And I did come on a pretty crappy day. I walked to the United Center today. It was pouring rain. It was I think it was 3 degrees, but felt like -1. So it's pretty much like a summer day compared to Winnipeg right now. So I'm not going to complain. But I was here in March last year and it was +16. So overall, great city. Glad to be here. Spending an extra day here. So
attaboy. I'll say this. I said this about Chicago. It's like at one point someone went and said, we're going to put up like one of the most beautiful buildings in North America. And they went and they built that big building. And then it's like, ever since that one beautiful building went up, the next guy was like, well, I'm going to make a better building and I'm going to make a better building. That's what I thought about Chicago is like, everyone builds a building with pride. It's not, one of these cities that's just, like square glass boxes, like you see so much everywhere. I mean, the stone, the masonry, all that kind of stuff, the artistry on it, it's gorgeous. And to the other point about this, Chicago being a food town, like Montreal is a great food town. You got me thinking about that when you talked about the smoked meats, because I think you and I were talking about you going to Montreal at some point. You were going to go check out the smoked meat sandwich. Wasn't that what you were after sometime this summer? Yeah.
Dude, didn't we talk about smoked meat sandwiches from Montreal I've been to 7.
I know that, but I know that
I'm like sweating smoked meat before in Montreal. I wasn't searching out anything.
I'm saying I think I talked to you on the phone where you were like making a day of going out and making sure you got the smoked meat. But it's funny, I put Montreal and Chicago right near the top of my list. Maybe at the very top of my list. Like New York, the tricky part about New York is it's so big, it's kind of hard to like identify what the places are. Chicago's and Toronto, Toronto and Montreal are kind of small enough that you can kind of identify what the standouts are, but not so big that it's just like overwhelms you because there's 200, 500 standouts, right?
Here's the other thing. When was the last time you guys been to Chicago? It's been a bit. I was 2 weeks ago. Okay, perfect. So sorry, Kenny.
It's okay,
but anyone who's been
you were busy on the football scene. It's okay.
5 or 6 years ago, I remember being outside the United Center. I was by myself and a police officer drove by and said, "Hey man, I don't think you're going to want to be around here. Get in the back. I'll drive you to wherever you need to go." Well, fast forward to today and it's completely gentrified. You can walk around there all day long. It's the West Loop. They put up a ton of, put up a ton of new buildings for residential. They put up a ton of, green space and everything. It's an absolutely incredible area, and it's also filled with restaurants. So on that theme, certainly an awesome place to visit. And anyone in Winnipeg, man, I mean, I used to drive there when I would drive through the States to school, for 4 years when I went to Ottawa, and would always stop in Chicago. It's only a 10-hour drive. So if you're looking for somewhere close, maybe relatively inexpensive, well, the American dollar isn't great. My credit card's showing a 40% uptake on purchases. Yeah, ouch. I know, bananas. Ouch. But good thing I don't have to pay for that. But all right. But anyway, close enough.
We got to get back to hockey. But first, I just got to give a shout out to our friends of Vittorio Rossi. And I got to say, usually I'll talk about how I don't look nearly as good when I don't have the suit on. But I got to say, I got the nice little TCB Trans-Canada Brewing hat on, which has a little bit of like blue and silver notes. And I got the blue and silver. I don't know how you could look better than this if you're rocking NFL gear. It makes me think I got to go see Frank and the boys and get like a navy blue with silver combo going on. I think it's a great idea, but I'm going to run it by Frank because he's the guy who knows these things. He may give me that look that Frank gives when I pick up something. And I'm like, what about this, Frank? And he's like, gives me the look, and I just quietly put it down and just let him do his thing. But hey, you can do the same thing. If you need suits and you want to look good, head on down to Vittorio Rossi, see Frank and the boys, go on down to Corden Avenue, check them out down there. And hey, Kenny, I'd like you to give Sweet Lou a shout out.
Yeah, for the folks in the realty market, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you're just curious what your house is worth or what houses in your area may be worth, check out our main man, Lou Furlan, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. You can reach him at 204-791-9971 or at the office at 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOUFURLAN.ca. And you can reach him at www.loufurlan.ca.
Sweet Lou. He's the man. Okay. All right. Let's move on here. I'm going to
Helping you is what we do.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It's a good line. I want to talk about the power play because clearly it's firing up. I'm going to give you a little idea of something that kind of popped into my mind here in the last little while. If you think about the old Jets power play, and you remember those times I talked about this on the CGOB pregame show, the old power play, and you think the Patrick Laine, right? Just a little bit off the circle, pass comes across, slapper into the back of the net. Well, then they started adding a little bit of a different element and doing the same thing with Kyle Connor, and it was working there. And if they didn't, shoot it from those guys, Mark Scheifele would go in the high slot, and they just feed the pucks through there, and he'd shoot it from there. Or Dustin Byfuglien would let one rip from the top of the circles or from the blue line, and it would get through. And that's how they used to score. They used to score from distance, and then slowly it started disappearing. Part of that was Byfuglien being gone, and that threat was gone, so it shut down one of the passing lanes and they could kind of focus on the rest of them. But I think what's so successful about this power play all of a sudden for the Winnipeg Jets is the idea that they've had an entirely different philosophical shift. They've stopped trying to get that beautiful goal where they pass it and all of a sudden it's an empty net and boom, it's in the back of the net. And they're just like, think about this for a second. 3 games ago, they get the power play goal. Mark Scheifele is down on the side of the net. The puck gets to the front of the net. They've got confidence that Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to find it before anybody else. Mark Scheifele is in the right spot. Pass across, tap it in. Nice goal from nice in tight in towards the net. And they're grinding, right? Pierre-Luc Dubois is grinding to get that puck, fight someone off, and move it over. Well, you go to last game, and the players are moving it around. It's a pass over to Mark Scheifele, slap shot. Who beats his man to the net is Blake Wheeler to pop it in from right there. I mean, we're talking less than 6 feet out from the net, and that's where the Jets are scoring from. And then tonight we see, okay, it's the shot from the point, but it's a shot from the point knowing that Blake Wheeler is right there, and it's putting it in the spot where Blake Wheeler likes to go for those tips. And guys, we've both seen this. On the morning of games, Blake Wheeler finishes off his morning skates, tipping pucks exactly like what you saw here today. Tipping them, he does about he does like 15, 30, 45 shots. He just sits there, the D-men shoot on net, and he tips it in there. But the whole idea is the Winnipeg Jets, I think their power play got stale because they were always passing it around, waiting and looking for that wide open one-timer, and it was in the back of the net. And it's like they wouldn't shoot unless it was that. It was almost like they were scared to shoot because they looked at a shot as an opportunity for the other team to get the puck and fire it down the ice. I think there's been a philosophical shift under Brad Lauer, who, has them moving the puck fast, but in the end, he has them getting the puck to the net with confidence that they're fast enough and strong enough with the likes of Pierre-Luc Dubois and Blake Wheeler in front of the net that they'll get to the puck first and either move it back into possession and get it rolling around again, or they'll just get it jamming in the front of the net. To me, it seems subtle. And because they're set up with the same structure, it seems like it's the same power play. But I think the job that the coaching staff in the last 10 games has done entirely turning the philosophical switch on these players to get them to take a different approach to try and score is just a winning strategy by that coaching staff, and a great job done when they were seeing that everything was kind of drying up. Ken, I wanted to get your take on what you're saying, and if you want to respond to what I said, go for it.
Yeah, I think that there's a little bit more trust happening now. I think Blake Wheeler being back in his comfortable side, the right wing side, where he is, he used to run the one-timer spot. He had the slot for Scheifele, he had the one-timer to Laine, he had Byfuglien at the top for a one-timer there. He had an interchange down low with Paul Stastny. We're seeing him look for his shot more, as we saw him score the other day against Anaheim, I think. We're also seeing a lot of smart plays by Josh Morrissey. His ability to get across the line and get some motion going. There's been a lot better movement between Josh and Kyle Connor. You're seeing Pierre-Luc Dubois get a little bit more involved. He's not just standing in the high slot. He's getting involved. He's getting some touches. I think the last year or two, the Jets Mark Scheifele got into a little bit of trouble on the Ovi side by doing a little bit too much stick handling along the left wing boards, and he was a little bit too far out to be a shooting threat. He has opened up his one-timer shot a little bit more. He's getting some cross-ice feeds. But to me, it's all about the movement. You talked about it. Brad Lauer's been hammering that point home all year long. The Jets hadn't had a lot of practice time during that first month and change. They've had a little bit more of late. They're starting to move. And they're starting to, there's still some times where they're maybe looking for the perfect play, but when you're feeling confident, that's part of the deal. Things are happening naturally, for sure, but you're still, when you have that level of talent, you're still able to do a good job and look for those spots. And sometimes it looks like they're looking for the perfect play, but to me, they're getting more shots away. There's quality and quantity. And I think that it's been impressive to watch. And, I think the Jets just got a little bit too static, and they haven't been static of late. And that's why they've had this long extended run of having some success. Are there times when they slip back into those old habits? Yes. But for the most part, I think their power play is in a really smart place. And when you start to score with some more regularity, you get that puck movement because you're moving the puck, you're feeling better. You're not, Rick's been using the term dusting it off. I think, Jeff, you probably heard that one more in the last couple of days than we've heard all season, but it's been impressive to watch. And I think there's a hunger there. And, I'm very curious to see what it looks like once Nikolai Ehlers comes back in, because the original plan was to have Ehlers on power play 1. And now, he hasn't been there for the majority of the season. So they've had to take on a different identity. And I'll be curious to see how things kind of get, spread out when Ehlers is back.
Hammy, I want your thoughts on the power play, because boy, oh boy, it has sure turned around.
Yeah, absolutely. I was pointing down to that comment before. JMS Sue?
Julie Sue.
Sorry,
yeah.
Julie Sue.
Yeah.
Bang on. I think that's exactly what it is. I think it was more designed, as you mentioned, Sean, that to get that perfect play, to get that perfect wide open shot in the slot or on the side, with Scheifele doing a one-timer, and I don't think that was working. They don't have Patrick Laine anymore. That's not gonna be as lethal. I think this is more, and I think it's a lot to do with their confidence. I think it's a lot to do with their structure and understanding that quicker passes, quicker movement, even the movement on the boards is quicker. Guys are shifting it around, moving the puck around, and trying to find those seams. You look at, and they're trying things. Like you look at Mark Scheifele, he's been kind of stationing in the slot, and they realize they only need a couple inches. They only need a couple inches to find that seam and create a good opportunity. And then there's the look at Blake Wheeler. Getting in front of the net, being a presence in front of the net, not kind of playing perimeter power play hockey where you're trying to find an open net, you're banging and creating chaos in front. That used to be PP2's identity. It's not exactly what they're doing they're not doing the exact same thing, but they're putting that element into their, craftiness. They're understanding that goals don't come one certain way. And they're spreading the biscuit around. Remember, it used to be like Blake Wheeler on the sideboards all day long, and it would like go through him, and he might shoot or he might dish to the bottom because whether it's under Jamie Compton and Paul Maurice, it was a lot of it was get the puck down by the goal line, and then that guy got a ton of power at the side of the net. He either found the person in the slot or he tried to jam the puck in, and that was becoming far too predictable for this team. And there's no, even earlier on this season, let's face it, the power play, despite having a goal, at least one power play goal in the last 7 games, still is in the bottom third of the league. So, that just goes to show just how ineffective they were. I remember being in Arizona, talking to Brad Lauer about the power play. Kenny, you were there. Sean, you were there too. And he was talking about being more predictable, but within their own scheme, right? It wasn't about being predictable to the opponent. It was about understanding where they all needed to be, right? And I think there is, as was the case earlier in the season when they weren't playing, as great a hockey as we see them doing now, there was going to be growing pains in all phases. There's still that muscle memory from last year and previous years, and I think that with time, and that was going to break. Those patterns were going to break, and I think we're seeing that right now. And certainly, anyone who's ever played any real level of hockey understands the power play is all about confidence. There's nothing that can drag you down more in a game than when your power play is not producing, and when your power play, and there's nothing that can drag you higher or make you feel better about yourselves when it's rolling. When you go out there, this is where you score in bunches. You had 7 games now with at least one power play goal. Those guys are jumping over the boards excited, not wondering how, when's the next power play they're going to get a goal. They're going out there playing freer, playing better. And we're seeing that right now in this last, 2.5, 3 weeks.
Okay, guys, we like getting the crowd involved in this. And let me just say, first of all, we see all the comments about Scotty Billick. Scotty Billick's on the next show. Nothing to worry about here. Nothing to see here, everybody. Scotty Billick is coming on Sunday. You'll see him there. Guys, I want to bring in some questions for the show. First, Ken, I'm going to go to you because Jeff was just talking about Russ Lowe and says we've got more time, so I'll ask again like I did last night. What do you all think? And I'm just going to limit this one to Kenny. Kenny, what do you think about Axel Jonsson-Fjällby? Do his upsides matter more than his hesitancy to shoot?
Yeah, let's not forget this is a guy he hasn't played 30, 40 games in the NHL yet. I don't think he's basically fighting for his life every game that he plays. Even when one day he went from being promoted to the top line for the third period to being a healthy scratch. So Jeff was just talking about confidence on the power play. If you're Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, you're trying to do everything you can to stay in the lineup, and eventually I think he could add an offensive element to his game. But I don't know that there's a high offensive ceiling there. I think he does an incredible job on the forecheck. He's a ferocious guy. He gets on the defenseman. He's great at knocking pucks down. His retrievals are impressive. But I don't see him as being could he eventually become a double-digit goal scorer in the bottom 6? Possibly, but I don't think that he had one really good year in the American League where he scored a bunch, but this is a guy who's going to be a checking line guy, an energy guy, a guy who kills some penalties, and I think he'll benefit from Saku Menelainen being out to kill a few more penalties. But I don't see a ton of offensive upside there, but I see a lot of speed and I see a lot of disruption, and those are good qualities. But I don't know that it's necessarily a reluctance to shoot. I just think he's naturally right now at a position where he's looking for his line mates a little bit more for himself. But back to Russ's point, I think he should shoot more. But I guess the big thing for me is he's not overly offensively gifted, but I do think there are some important qualities there, and I think he can become a regular. And like I said, he is in the competition for ice time, and when the Jets get a little healthier, he'll have to be sharp to stay in the lineup full time. But I think he has the potential to, it's still an impressive job for what he's been doing for a waiver pickup, and I think he's still trying to find his way, is my long-winded way of saying that. Again, I think he's still doing a nice job, but I think there's a little bit more there. But I wouldn't expect him to, I would expect more offense from a guy like Morgan Barron than I would a guy like Axel Jonsson-Fjällby.
Yeah. Okay. Or a question specifically for you, Hammy. here we go. Waiters 27 says Kenny thinks Barbashev would be a good pickup. Who does Hammer think the Jets should target at the trade deadline? I think that this is a great question, and I think it's something we need to be formulating thoughts on because it's heading in this direction, gentlemen.
I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm look, who they should target and who they should target and who they can get are two different things. So it's like, I mean, and what do they need, right? I mean, at this point, I mean, I saw a note here about what about a guy like Jonathan Toews, you know what I mean, who's in an expiring contract, who I don't think is nearly as good as a Patrick Kane, of course, when it comes to offensive production, but might be a guy that can win faceoffs. You know what I mean? He's a guy that can, you know, we know how big Bonus is in winning faceoffs. So, you know, I don't think Jonathan Toews would come back to Winnipeg personally, but yeah, I'm kind of no on that too. But just looking at certain options, I mean, there's not a lot of guys out there either. I mean, I don't know who you would try to pull. And everyone, if you look at the market right now, guys, I mean, it is insane. Like the asking prices are ridiculous. Like, you know, I just don't know where you would really look in all this. And like, you know, if you look at, you know, even if you look at some of the guys that are, you know, that are available, to me, it's just at this point, I don't know. And there was a comment here about inserting guys into the lineup, right? About, you know, what would adding guys do to the dynamic of this team? I don't think that's much of a big issue. I just don't know if there's anybody out there at this point really worth it. I mean, at the same time, the Jets are rolling. I mean, they're going to have to add weapons. What can they give up? What are they willing to give up? You know, that remains to be seen. But I don't know. I honestly don't point to, like, I look at the people who are on expiring contracts, and I don't really see anybody who you know is kind of a, you know, a great add-on or someone I think the Jets are in a position to get. I do wonder what effect Rick Bowness might have in the whole mix, right? When it comes to, like, you know, kind of reputation and wanting to play for certain players. And, you know, obviously the Jets were a, you know, a few years ago, were an ideal situation for guys who wanted to spend the last 3 months of the season with a chance to win, a chance at the Stanley Cup. That obviously went down over the last couple of seasons, and it's back up there now. We'll see where they're at when it comes to the trade deadline. But I mean, you know, to pick out a certain guy that's out there, I mean, there's a handful of guys. I just don't know, you know, who the Jets would, you know, who they benefit from, but who they really would be, you know, a chance to have. What do you guys think?
Well, a lot of the stuff you're bringing up is a debate that Ken and I have been having back and forth, and that Ken thought that with Nikolai Ehlers out, the Jets were kind of on the clock and needed to make a move. I hope I'm not mischaracterizing that.
Sooner than later is my
no, and I know exactly.
I'm not saying today. I just mean I would prefer them to make a move a month before the deadline rather than a day before the deadline, for that player to be incorporated into the mix, given the kind of mix that has been created here.
So I that sounds a little bit different than what I've.
Sorry, it could be now. Sorry, I mean I'm all for it right now. You know?
Yeah.
So I listen to all your shows. I know exactly the debate you're talking about, and I would lean to Kenny's side. I think with the injury, like, the Jets were getting by, but they're another injury away from falling deeper. So, like, but where's that depth? Who's the who are the candidates? And I think that was your argument, Renny, Sean, about, you know, against it, was like, well, who now? And who's available? You know what I mean? Like, I think you were saying it wasn't so much that you disagreed with Kenny. It was like, well, who are you getting now, and at what price at this point?
Right. So
it was too higher value.
You brought up really good points there, because right now I think trying to go get a guy, like, put it this way, I don't think that it is acceptable this year for the Winnipeg Jets to not swing for the fence. So I think they have to be a big player in the trade market at some point. But you make a good point. I just don't think the trade market is there right now. There's going to be different guys available who can fit the needs that the Jets are looking for, the later and the deeper that you go in the season. So, yes, Ken, I think you're right. There's a balance, and I think the Jets have traditionally, for the most part, other than going and getting guys like Stastny, who at the time no one thought Stastny was coming out of anywhere, and I don't think anyone was thinking Stastny would have the effect he had on the 2018 Jets. So that was kind of like a bargain value find. That's like going to the thrift shop and, like, someone dropped off a Danny leather coat there that they'd worn twice and threw in there, and it's still in style, right? That's what happened in that situation. But when it comes to like the real big swings, it feels like, and I guess Kevin Hayes does actually fit into that mold, but the Jets usually don't win those battles, right? So I understand what you're saying, Ken, but I have never felt this sense of urgency that's happening right now. And I disagree with you, Jeff, the idea that, the Jets are one injury away from falling deeper. I think everything we've seen from the Jets is there should be no doubting that they could pull someone up from the farm team make
Sean,
them work.
Sean, I'm talking about when you were having the debate weeks ago when Morgan Barron wasn't in the lineup.
Right.
He came back. There's been guys
I still felt no sense of
lineup.
Urgency. And this is a team that's won, seven straight, sorry, not 7 straight games, but they've won, 7 of their last 8 games right now. Like, this team is not hurting at all. And every guy who gets given an opportunity, I mean, we don't find Mikey Asamont if the Jets went out a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago or whatever and went to go get a player to fill that role. The Jets are for the first time having a coaching staff that has the faith to go down and give opportunities to guys. I mean, how good of an organization have the Moose been for how long? And yet, where are the players that were coming up to kind of spell things off? You've got all this depth in a really good AHL team, and yet all there ever was this debate between, these 3 defensemen. It was Stanley, Sandberg, and Ville Heinola. That's all we had. And then the rest of the guys, there was really no one up front. That's what everybody thought. Yet they've had this great franchise that is doing great things down there and seem to really be fitting into the system. Well, Rick Bowness is using that system right now for exactly what it's for, to get them through problems like this, so you don't have to have a knee-jerk reaction and go out and overspend to fix a problem where the solution to that problem may very well land where you are right now. This is my take. I watch this Jets team play, and the way that I see them playing, and the impact I see, the Saku Menelains and the Mikey Asamonts and so on and so forth. And we got to talk about Jansen Harkins before we shut it down, because he comes in and does that. I just think when we get to the playoffs, when you see, and we know this from covering this, and fans should know this from 2018, but the level of play just gets to a place where what you're seeing right now in the season, what you saw in the last 2 games, this kind of hockey doesn't exist in the playoffs, okay? So there's certain guys, and I'm not saying that these guys can't be impact players in the playoffs, but it's far from a sure thing. And I don't think the Jets can go anywhere this year with the team they have if they continue doing this with the expiring contracts that they have. This is an all-in type year. This is you spend future assets to try and get something to happen here right now, because your window is potentially closing. And unless Kevin Cheveldayoff knows something about contract extensions for Pierre-Luc Dubois and Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele, then you got to start treating this like this is your greatest opportunity that you've had, and start filling the coffer. So I think this is the year where you send a lot of big ticket prospects out the window for big swings. Now, people are talking about that, like Bo Horvat. If you went and you took and put Bo Horvat on a 3rd line, and then you had Lowry go down to the 4th line, and you had Lowry's line available to do that as a 4th line to go and bludgeon the opponents and play the way he's playing, and Bo Horvat, who I believe has more points than any Winnipeg Jet right now, if you have him on a line and you can roll a Scheifele line and a Dubois line and a Bo Horvat line, now you're talking about a team that very much has an opportunity to go the whole way. I think the Jets have to do that. I don't think you find that player at this time of year, which is why I've been hesitant for that. People talking about Nick Ehlers coming back and being their trade deadline acquisition. No, add him in there, but maybe Nick Ehlers is the guy who can go down and play alongside Bo Horvat on the 3rd line, and you leave Mikey Asamont there to balance things out. But that's a little bit deeper of an explanation of mine. The Jets, in my opinion, have to do something this year. They have to do something big. I disagree with Ken, and I've disagreed, although I started leaning towards them. What the Jets have done recently has me entirely snapped back. They have to do something, but now's not the time. I do agree with him that if you wait right until the trade deadline, you're flirting with disaster. So I agree with you there, Ken. But all this about the Jets needing to make a move now, I think now would be a mistake, because what they're looking for isn't there right now, and the price would be too high anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Bo Horvat with the Jets? Like, I mean, yeah, if you want to throw, like, what? Like even like there's a comment here by
Pending
forgive me
UFA
if I
though,
get
Jeff,
this wrong.
he's going to be available for somebody if they can't get an extension done. I think
Right, and
Yeah.
so totally. I'm just saying, the price is going to be high, and I'm with you, man. It's certainly throw everything you can at getting him. I mean, like absolutely. I just think that would be a tough get. But there's a comment here, and this goes to the price. I mean, what's all your boys out in Sportsnet in Edmonton? What are they talking right now? Who are they trying to give up? What prospect are they trying to give up?
Broberg.
Yeah,
Broberg.
to get who?
it's Edmondson.
Oh, they're talking about
potentially,
getting
right? I mean,
Joel
all kinds of-
Edmondson, for God's sakes.
Yeah, a guy who got traded for a 5th round draft pick. Sorry, like nasty players, sure, beefy on the line, got playoff experience, but give me a break. You know what I mean? Like that guy, like you got to give up massive pieces of your future for that guy. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like that's what I'm talking about with price tags here. They're just impossible.
But here's the deal: the price is the price, and the price of not jumping in the market in a year where you have the potential to do something special lasts forever. And I always say this: ask a Calgary Flames fan what it means to have one banner from 1989 hanging in their rafters, and ask a Canucks fan what it feels like to have none. If you have a chance to win a cup, you have to go for it. It's the whole
Kenny,
San Antonio.
Sean, I don't think either of us are arguing that the Jets should swing for the fences at the deadline. I just think
I'm just saying everyone.
I just
worrying about what you have to pay, like the price is the price. This year, this is what it's going to cost to make it so that you think that you can win a Stanley Cup. You pay that price. It sucks. No one wants to spend the money they spend on a house or a car or an investment, but you spend it if you think that it's going to get you exactly what you want. And that's what I think has been missing in the past. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff prefers being a bargain shopper. And to be honest with you, if I had to guess, that's what's going to happen this year. I feel like I'll be underwhelmed with what comes back. I'm just saying, if the Jets keep doing what they're doing right now and they keep doing it throughout the year, and Ken, you need to retort to this because you've been itching to talk. But if they go the bargain basement route, I think that will be a mistake. I think they need to swing for the fences, and that means they're going to have to move out some prospects, and people are already starting to talk about them, that people are going to be pissed off, and years from now they're going to look and think, man, we had that guy in the system and we lost him. That's the price to pay to be one of the big boys with a banner hanging up in your rafters. That's what you got to do.
Well, yeah, okay. It's, we talk about history. I mean, the St. Louis Blues are thrilled with the trade, but now all of a sudden people are starting to realize that Jason Botterill got a good player in Tage Thompson. Yes, it took a little bit longer than most people thought, but all of a sudden Tage Thompson's among the NHL leaders and just dropped a 5-goal, 6-point night the other night. So, I mean, it's interesting. There are moves to be made. I'm not going to let you get off the hook by saying that Mikey Eyssimont is going to be playing above Nikolai Ehlers in the lineup.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to give you the full wake up because I know what you mean. You're talking about the spreading out of the offense, a la the Pittsburgh Penguins, Nick Bonino and Phil Kessel. I just don't think that we would call Bo Horvat and Nikolai Ehlers a third line at any point. But it's interesting. I mean,
you'd have to if you have a Dubois line and a Scheifele line. You'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say this, Sean. I mean, if the Jets go and get Bo Horvat, then you're going to see Pierre-Luc Dubois playing with Mark Scheifele. You're not going to need to worry about spreading out those three centers because you're still going to want to have room for David Gustafsson in the lineup. So you're going to be moving either Dubois or Scheifele to the wing if you go out and get someone of the capability and class of Bo Horvat. And then you're still probably playing
Gustafsson to the wing and have just like a ridiculous shutdown line.
Yeah, I mean, even I don't see a scenario where I could see a scenario where Eyssimont is still in the lineup after trades are made. I just don't see him in the top 6 necessarily. If Ehlers is back and if they get a guy like Horvat. I mean, anyways.
So then maybe that's when they go bargain basement shopping and try and find the value picks to move into those spots, right? I know what you're saying. Yes. And
I'm with you. I mean, a lot of people in the chat are talking about Brock Besser. I mean, Brock Besser has one impressive quality. It's an important one. He's an incredibly great human. He's gone through an incredibly difficult time. I don't see Brock Besser as a fit with the Jets. The Jets have worked hard to becoming a faster team. Brock's greatest quality is his ability to shoot the puck, but right now he is not he doesn't play at a high pace. He's not a physical player. He's not a defensive player. So to me, he's not the kind of guy that would fit with the Jets. Like today, he could help the Jets in the top 6 because of who's out, but I don't think that he fits stylistically. I mean, yes, there's a connection. He played at UND and everything else, but I think he'd be comfortable playing here. I just don't see him as a stylistic fit. And also, he's not a financial fit because he's got multiple years on a deal at a $6 million contract. So, Sean, to your point of, banking cap space every day, the Jets aren't banking cap space to get Brock Besser because they hope he can help the second power play. I mean, that's just not – I just don't see him as being the type of – like, to your point, when the Jets went out, they were looking to fill or upgrade the second line center position. They went out and got Paul Stastny, who was the best at that job, probably, and could play on your first line. He could play on your third line. He could check. He could play on the penalty kill. He could play on the power play. So I think they're going to identify their need, and then they're going to go out and fill that need. Now, is it possible they get a center and move someone else to the wing, like I mentioned earlier? Absolutely, it is. But let's not forget, there are other teams shopping in the high rent district that are going to be competing for players that the Jets are competing with.
Thank you. Like I feel like I need
that's
to
what you've been saying, Jeff.
Clarify something here. Like it's not like I don't think the Jets should go all in. I've said over and over.
No, Jeff, we're on the same side here.
They should swing for the fences. And Sean, you say that the Jets have gone through over the besides the Stastny have gone to kind of the bottom feeders approach or whatever.
They went big with Hayes.
For sure, exactly. But that's what I'm saying is but in the other years where they didn't, that wasn't the approach they were going for. That was what they were left with. You know what I mean? Like, think that they were not trying to take the best player possible to give away they had better, options to give. They had higher draft picks. They had, there was prospects that they still have. They don't have those guys really anymore, right? I mean, I guess they have the guys they drafted this year, but it's not that they're not trying to do it. I'm just feeling like I feel like I'm playing a game of Sega here, and I can just throw any trade at you, and maybe the Jets will get them here. Like to
Sega.
me, yeah. But to me, it's just it's more like a realistic approach here. Like I think if the Jets can get anyone of Bo Horvat's status of any kind, hell, give away a couple first-round picks if you think this is going to be, you think you're going to be building at the top of the standings for the next couple of years. But at this point, I just don't think it's a realistic suggestion that the Jets are going to be outbidding the other 31 teams. Like, think about Paul Stastny. That one came out of the blue. That one required a few different key factors. One, the guy's good friends with Blake Wheeler. He could advocate for the program here. Two, this guy was at the end of his career, and he transitioned his stay in Winnipeg to play between two quality guys in Line A and Ehlers, and then went and signed big money after and resurrected his career. There was opportunity. There was benefit to him. That was the situation the Jets were left with. To have some guy, to have potential players who are building, I don't think who are in their primes and growing, I don't think they're coming here, and I don't think the Jets have the resources to give back. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think they do have. This is the reason I do think this is possible. Is a lot of these teams have kind of backed themselves into a corner, and if you take a look at this is a great point by AB, who says usually depth players are difference makers. Look at Lehkonen. I mean, Lehkonen's the deadline pickup for a team like the Colorado Avalanche because they're looking for that depth kind of thing. I think the Jets have room for a big swing because the Jets have a very definitive top 6, and then they have a very highly functional bottom 6 that can really grind you, but they don't have the skill level that other teams do and have gone to the playoffs with. I mean, if you are questioning what I'm saying, look at the Tampa Bay Lightning's lineup for those cups that they won, and then look at the Colorado Avalanche from last year, like insane depth and skill up and down those lineups. So I know what you're saying, Jeff, and I know that it's Winnipeg, and usually guys don't want to come to Winnipeg. I do think, though, that Rick Bowness is a coach that is a little bit different than what people have seen in the past. He's got so much connections around the league, and he's so well known. It's one of the reasons why when he got hired here, I was all over it. I thought it was a great hire. Kenny was as well, and the reason is because we've talked to so many players.
I was all over it too.
Yeah, we've talked to so many players
around
the league.
Early in the potential hiring process. This is a guy, and you, to your point, Sean.
No, let me finish up here. I don't want you to go in a different direction here.
I'm talking about Bowness. I'm talking about his connection.
Bowness is just part of what I'm talking about here. So, like, so many people talked about him. He's got such a good reputation with players and coaches around the league. It's easy to make a connection to him. He's like the Kevin Bacon. Everyone's got a connection to this guy, and a fairly close connection because of that. So that's different, I think, than during the Paul Maurice era.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was in 2 cities. He walks down the hallways, and he's hugging a dozen people on every single organization. And I said earlier in our conversation when it came to trade baits, when you asked me about who the Jets could pick up, I said, we've talked about the bonus effect. What might that mean for the trade market? People want to be here with him. So you're reading the comments and not listening to what I'm saying.
No, but you're trying to tell me, you're saying that I'm saying this, and I'm saying like it's just like wave your magic wand and these players will come here. I'm building the case that this year is different. You're suggesting that I'm saying it's going to be easy for them to do that. I don't think it's going to be easy for them to do that. And in years past, the Winnipeg Jets would have tried for certain things, but because the Jets weren't doing well, it makes it harder to bring people in. If the Jets keep playing like they're playing, they're going to look really good. And the one thing they have going for them that they didn't in 2018 was people didn't quite get how good they were yet. In 2019, they did. And that's why a guy like Kevin Hayes would want to come here, because he thought he was taking a run at a cup. That's what a lot of people thought. Well, I think that residual exists with the Winnipeg Jets, and players around the league take a look and say, okay, the Jets are finally back to being what we thought they were going to be, and what we thought they were going to be was a perennial Stanley Cup contender. So if I'm Bo Horvat, it's kind of back to the idea that Kevin Hayes wanted to come to Winnipeg. It didn't work out, but he wanted to pull a Paul Stastny. He wanted to come here and play alongside all of these great offensive players, stack up his numbers so that he looked really good, and then slay in the market afterwards. He did, although he didn't do that well here. But like you said, Stastny resurrects his career because he looks so good alongside the Winnipeg Jets members. Well, if I'm Brock Besser and I'm taking a look around the league, I think I'm okay with a trade to Winnipeg because A, no one's worrying about the cold because you're going there for the springtime playoff run. B, you know you're going to play with a ton of talent. C, if they keep playing like this, they're going to be a Stanley Cup contender. And D, you're going to play amongst some great players that's only going to make your contract bigger. So he's not coming here to stay with the Winnipeg Jets. He's coming for a little stop. He's hoping that stop will include a cup and then a big payday at the end of it. And I think with the bonus factor, with where the Jets are and people believe in them now more than I think they have in the past, it'll be easier to get big swing targets to come here, and I think that is what they need. They've left some money open so they can do this. I think the Jets have to go big game hunting this year, and I think big game will come here in a way that it hasn't in the past. Ken, you should wrap this up.
No, I'm good. This is the beauty is that the NHL trade deadline is March 1st, so we're at December 10th, so we'll have a lot of time to discuss. We also, we had already discussed a lot of the game. There wasn't a whole lot to dig into. We've touched all the topics there. I think it's going to be an interesting debate. I think the Jets are going to be active when it comes to the trade market. And one quick one, I know that someone in the chat room said they were watching Rutger McGroarty tonight, and I think for folks who missed it, our colleague Jason Bukala over at Sportsnet talked about some Jets prospects in a recent column. They're also one of the interesting parts is Dmitry Reshevsky's having another incredible year in the KHL, and I would say that the Jets are probably going to try to get him over here for next year. He's a 5th round draft pick. Everyone wants to say, oh well, could he be the next Kaprizov? No one is suggesting that, but he is a dynamic scorer, and he's the kind of guy we're on a team that hasn't had a ton of forward prospects the last couple of years because the draft, they traded a bunch of those draft picks during that window where they were contending. He is going to help replenish. Brad Lambert, he hasn't been lighting it up in the American League despite some folks thinking he should be called up to the NHL at 18 years old. I think that Brad will, go to the World Junior and then see what happens. I'm very curious to see if the Jets consider sending Brad Lambert to the Seattle Thunderbirds for the after January 10th. I'm not saying that they should or they will. I think it has to be a consideration. This is an offensive player that I think that has 3 points this year. The American League is a hard league for anyone, let alone an 18-year-old young kid. This is a guy who needs puck touches. He needs, we know he has confidence. We saw his confidence in training camp. But I think the Jets, I'll be curious to see what the conversations are like here during the next couple of weeks when it comes to Lambert. He's still a high-end prospect. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to play in the NHL for a long time. But I wonder if him going after training camp, people are like, oh, never. He doesn't need a sniff of junior. Well, he might now. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. But yeah, McGroarty is an interesting prospect. He'll be going to the World Juniors along with Chaz Lucius, who's missed some time due to injury with the Manitoba Moose, but he has been released to Team USA as well. And also Fabian Wagner, one of the other Swedish guys. I mean, Elias Salomonsson, who's having a great year. He will not be at the World Junior because of injury, but those other guys we mentioned should be there.
Okay, before we go, a couple things I wanted to touch on here. Craig Zamzow asked, when are we posting chat room roster of attendees at the TCB K&R Xmas party? You're going to have to wait, but believe me, I get the feeling that the people who are going to be at the show are going to be somewhat a part of the show. So you'll find out on that day. I'm sure Larry TSG says if someone cannot attend the Xmas party, I would like to purchase your spot. Turns out I'm free now that day. Larry, if you can't get in there, and everyone else, because I know that there were some people who were left wanting tickets and couldn't get there, we're having another event on January 21st. It's the Hockey Night in Canada game. The Jets will be in Ottawa for that game. I will for sure be at Trans-Canada Brewing. Ken may not be, but it doesn't matter if you have to miss one of us. Who would you rather hang out? The guy who wears a headband or the guy who doesn't wear a headband? It's a pretty obvious solution to that question there.
That's right.
And home field, we got to hand out the home field. And this one goes to Lynn Reimer, who says, I was glad that the Jets made up for their crap performance against CBJ to Rittich. I think that is a really highly intelligent comment because I think there was a part of that. I think there was a part of the Jets feeling like their backup goaltender got in there and they let him down and they owed him one. And boy, oh boy, they looked motivated to get back to their goalie. So that was phenomenal stuff. You win, Lynn Reimer, the Dig Deeper comment of this Kenny and Renny show. Kenny, give home field a shout out.
Yeah, you could. It's for Home Field for marketing and more. You can reach them at myhomefield.ca. That's myhomefield.ca. Kenny,
great job tonight. Jeff, always love having you on. You're welcome to come on anytime you want. Just give us a heads up. Chat room, you rocked it as always doing it. And as I always end up saying, if you appreciate these conversations that are happening in this space, please appreciate our sponsors who keep this conversation going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, Trans-Canada Brewing, the Johnson Group, Lou Ferlin, and Home Field. And you know what? It was called for. I didn't get to it. But let's end this show by making it a Sean's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny Show. Bye, everybody. See you on Sunday.